DGen Nation fam, what is up? What is happening? We're on to week 8 here, and we got another NFL DFS top low-owned plays here, powered by the Fantasy Authority, powered by the DGen Nation. I'm excited about week 8, guys. This is going to be a fun one. Got top low-owned plays for you, 10 of them, not 9 like last week, actually 10, actually guys who are going to be playing. Let's get into it. But before I get into it, I just want to thank everybody for rocking with us all week. We're about to or all year. We're about the halfway season here at week 8. And so if you like the content, please like, subscribe to the Fantasy Authority YouTube channel, like and comment on the videos. Appreciate everybody. And if you want to get any further, with the DGen Nation fam, just hit us up on Twitter. You can hit me up, Ryan Alexander _W, or the Fantasy Authority, FF_Authority, DGen Nation Pod. We'll get you into our Slack chat where everything's going on there, talking DFS, talking redraft, talking dynasty, any type of questions that you guys have, we'll take care of you. But without any further ado, let's get into the week 8 top low owned plays here and start it off as usual at quarterback. At quarterback this week, I'm talking about the kid, Justin Herbert. This kid has been phenomenal. He's 6,900 on DraftKings. He's 7,700 on FanDuel, and he could make for a good pivot off of these other guys who are higher priced, right? He plays in the afternoon slate of games, and we know that people want to play Jimmy G in that slate. They want to play Russell, Pat Mahomes on the early slate, Ryan Tannehill on the early slate, Aaron Rodgers on the early slate. I just feel like he's going to be overlooked. And when you look at the production that he's given us, 300 yards in 3 games this season, 3 games with 3 touchdowns or more, showed that he had rushing upside last week, running for 66 yards, I believe, against Jacksonville on 9 attempts. So you love that. Chargers games in the past couple have been high scoring. And then we love the narrow distribution of targets with Keenan Allen and Hunter Henry is really where you want to go to pair with this guy, as Justin Jackson and Josh Kelly, they don't have the same role as Austin Eckler did. So love getting to some Justin Herbert exposure this week. And the second guy at quarterback is going to be weird to talk about, but it's Cam Newton. He's 5,700 on DraftKings. He's 7,400 on FanDuel. And last week it looked atrocious, right? He threw 3 interceptions, gets benched. You see Belichick coming over to the sidelines, kind of tapping him on the shoulder, like, you did what you could, guy. And he hasn't looked great since being off of the COVID list. He did deal with that earlier this year. But why we play Cam is because of the rushing upside, right? This guy was not throwing for, 300 yards every game, even 250 yards. He was putting up points on the ground. And you look at his game logs this year, you see 2 75-yard rushing games from him and an extreme red zone row. He's 10th in rushing attempts inside the 5 with 7. That's tied with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And he has more inside the 5 than Kamara, Hunt, Carson, and Cook, which is just crazy. Now, I really like Cam on DraftKings, where you can get him at 5,700. That just seems way, way too cheap. 7,400 on FanDuel. I kind of don't think you need to go there this week, but it looks like it's going to be an ugly weather game there between New England and Buffalo. So getting to some Cam, you can play him naked. You don't have to really stack him with anybody, but on the run back, you're looking at guys like Stephon Diggs, who has a huge target share there with Josh Allen or John Brown even. So I definitely like getting to some Cam this week. Let's move on to running back, talk about some of these guys here. And one of the big leverage plays that I'm looking at right now is Josh Jacobs, who's 6,200 on DraftKings, 7,800 on FanDuel. And the $6,200 price tag on DraftKings just seems way too cheap. I know that a lot we want to talk about with Josh Jacobs is he doesn't catch passes out of the backfield, but he's got 3 or more targets in all of his games this year. And what I really like about Josh Jacobs is in plus matchups, he's had success. 22.5 DraftKings points against Kansas City, 35.9 against Carolina, and he finds himself in another plus matchup this week. You love the red zone role that he has. He has he's 9th in rushing attempts inside the 20, 7th in attempts inside the 10, and all 5 of his touchdowns this year have come from the red zone. So that's very encouraging. If the Raiders do get down there and want to score, you know that they're looking to get the ball in Josh Jacobs' hands first and foremost. And he's just a workhorse back that just won't see the ownership levels for that. He's got 19 plus opportunities in every game this year outside of the Tampa Bay game, and we know Tampa Bay's tough against running backs. So like to get to Josh Jacobs this week. And the the next one here, very fun. Le'Veon Bell, revenge game, going against the Jets. Chiefs are 19.5 point favorites. I mean, what else do you want from him this week? I've had conversations with a ton of people that I'm close with here about Le'Veon Bell, and it doesn't feel right. Like it just seems like we're kind of chasing the narrative, and I love narratives more than anybody. But you're looking at that total, you're looking at the price tag there at 4,700. We know what his ceiling could possibly be, right, with this team. And you look at last week, he played 33% of the snaps. That's kind of encouraging, but they shared drives. Like Bell would come in, he gets his own drive. Then Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets his own drive. That's crazy. And we don't know. I don't like to project blowouts. So if this game is not like out of hand as people are projecting, I just don't know if he carries that ceiling. I'd much rather play guys like AJ Green, who's 4,500 at wide receiver, Myles Gaskin, who's 5,200 at running back. You can even play McCall Hardman at 4,700 in that same game there and hope that Pat Mahomes gets going. So it doesn't feel comfortable, but I definitely had to put him in there because of the narrative. So he's good salary relief for this week with not a lot of value. Let's talk about wide receiver here and go into Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, he has been off the injury report there, out of concussion protocol. He's 7K on DraftKings, 6,800 on FanDuel. And it's just not, the ownership just isn't going to match up to the production that he has. He's third in the league in targets, seventh in receptions, ninth in receiving yards, but his production's been kept down because of the touchdowns. He only has 2 this year. Last year, these teams played against Marshawn Lattimore, lit him up, and that was Mitchell Trubisky. But we know Foles he's got DGAF mode. He doesn't care who's on the other side. He had 1087 and 1. So you definitely love that. He's the 6th highest priced receiver on DraftKings, which should keep his ownership low. He's the 13th highest priced on FanDuel. So I like getting to some exposure there on Allen Robinson in a perfect run back with Alvin Kamara, who's going to be popular this week. And if you think that the Bears can kind of, save face here, it is a home game for them. He makes a ton of sense to play with Kamara, try and get the points there. The next guy who I want to touch on is Tyler Boyd. And Tyler Boyd was pretty much going to find his way into my building blocks article that will come out either later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. And the more I thought about it, looking at AJ Green's price with the role that he has in that offense, I just had to put him in the article strictly based off of price, right? And we need salary relief this week. But when you're looking at Tyler Boyd, who comes in at 6,600 on DraftKings, 6,400 on FanDuel, like, no one wants to play this guy who continuously is seeing a role. And I just remember the conversations about Tyler Boyd coming into drafts this year, and with Joe Burrow being there, him playing the Justin Jefferson role of what that was for LSU, right? And Joe Burrow loved targeting Justin Jefferson out of the slot. Tyler Boyd plays the slot. It's now come to fruition this year. It's just crazy. Like, Tyler Boyd consistently is putting up numbers. This dude just had 30 points on DraftKings last week, and he's still projected to, see under 10% ownership, and leads the team in targets, leads the team in red zone targets as well, has a 21% share in the red zone. There's not going to be any Christian Fulton this week for Tennessee, who's their slot corner. So now we got Tyler Boyd going against Chris Jackson, and that's the second best matchup according to PFF if you look at the wide receiver cornerback charts there as far as the advantage goes. So I love getting to some Tyler Boyd this week and getting exposure to that game. The next guy I want to talk about is Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown comes in at 6,100 on DraftKings, 5,900 on FanDuel, and I feel like a lot of people are writing this Pittsburgh and Baltimore game off, and I kind of did too. Except for Marquise Brown. I mean, I looked at this game as a divisional matchup. The games were kind of ugly last year, but we weren't dealing with Ben Roethlisberger on the Pittsburgh side. It was Mason Rudolph and Delvin Hodges, not guys you feel confident in. Even the last game of the season, I believe Robert Griffin played for Lamar Jackson, so he could sit. And, if this game is competitive, it stays close. I think Brown is definitely going to be involved. There's no Mike Hilton for Pittsburgh here in this game. So he's going to run up against Steven Nelson, run up against Joe Hayden. and he should just be able to take advantage here. There's no Devin Bush across the middle. He's the best wide receiver on, best wide receiver on the team by a long shot. 42 targets. Next closest is Boykin with 19, and his price tag is just criminal. He comes in as the 26th price wide receiver on FanDuel, which just makes zero sense for the upside that he should see here. If you think it gets going in, and we love the target share that he's getting, right? Like 6 targets in pretty much every game that Marquise Brown has been out there, which is a huge upswing from last year there. So love getting to Marquise Brown. 2 more wide receivers I got to you before we get into tight ends to round it out. Let's talk about Jarvis Landry, 5,600 on DraftKings, 5,800 on FanDuel. This makes no sense. I mean, OBJ getting ruled out. This should be wheels up for Jarvis Landry this week. And people want to talk about Rashad Higgins and how well he's done with Baker. And I think Matt Harmon's talked about Rashad Higgins before, which, anytime Matt Harmon talks about a wide receiver, people get excited about him. But Rashad Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones, like their ownerships just make no sense to me as what we're seeing for this week when we have Landry there. And maybe he's priced out, right? He's 5,600. So we've been trying to save salary as much as we can to get to these high-priced running backs this week. But you're looking at the role there. He has the hip injury that he suffered in week 5, but in the last 4 games, he's got no less than 5 targets. This will be an ugly weather type of game is kind of what it looks like. And Landry has the lowest ADOT between Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones. So Baker could be leaning on him without Austin Hooper out there, and they're going to have Harrison Bryant and David Njoku, but you're looking at your slot guy there and Landry to kind of lean on there to move the ball. And we look at Odell's target share, and you still look at Landry, who's seeing 21% of air yards. You like that. That's second on the team and had more catches and yards than Odell this season. So what's to say that Baker just won't come out here and just lean on Landry every chance that he gets? I love getting to some Landry exposure. I probably won't have any at all of Rashad Higgins, and I'll just, let that be what it is. But I just think that there's definitely ways to take advantage on the field there. Lastly, let's talk about T.Y. Hilton, right? And guys, please don't yell at me for these plays. I'm looking at just ways to attack the field and leverage and what can happen. And these plays are just sticking out to me because you have a guy in T.Y. Hilton here who's just been, you can say he's washed, and I'm not going to really argue with you on that. I mean, he hasn't looked good. I've seen the numbers that he suffered without Luck being the quarterback and all these other guys. He just hasn't been doing it, but he's had so much bad luck this season. I mean, and I guess on him too, like dropping touchdowns in the end zone and not being able to reel it in. Very frustrating there, but he's definitely getting looks. He's gotten looks in the red zone. Phillip Rivers is still, targeting the most on the team, and he goes up against a Detroit team that's ranked 23rd versus wide receivers. And we've attacked the Detroit secondary all year here. So I just love when players are just written off and we're not thinking about them. And you look at this total here and it's still around 50. I think it's been bet down a little bit, but still around 48, 49 there for a total. He just came out. They're coming off of a bye, right? So this could be a get right spot for him. He just said that he feels like he's close to a breakout game. Maybe they, got him and Phillip Rivers onto the same page and can make something happen there. But T.Y. Hilton, I love getting some exposure to him. And he'll just go overlooked. He'll be unowned, especially as one-offs. So like to get to him. Lastly, let's round it out with tight end. I appreciate you guys rocking with me here as I'm long-winded on this one, it seems like this week. But lastly, tight end, Mark Andrews. He's 5,800 on DraftKings. He's 7,000 on FanDuel. And this just comes down to, similarly to what I said with Marquise Brown, right? I mean, no Bush across the middle there. You're looking at Mark Andrews. You're going to get him at a fourth of the percentage as Darren Waller this week. You're going to get him at a third of a percentage as Jonnu Smith. Like he's going overlooked. You look at the price tag on DraftKings, 5,800 for Mark Andrews. That's crazy. And the target share really has kind of been limited. I mean, with Marquise Brown going up, we know that Lamar doesn't throw a lot. So that's kind of affected some of Mark Andrews' numbers. But you're looking at it, he's got 5 receiving touchdowns for the team. The rest of the team combined has 5. Just absolutely crazy. 8 red zone targets on the team. Next closest is Willie Snead with 3. I mean, you can't run on Pittsburgh, so they're going to need Lamar to pass this week. And between Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, I mean, you're getting all of the scoring there from Baltimore. And then we look at the running back situation. I mean, their running backs banged up. Mark Ingram's going to be out. It looks like J.K. Dobbins could possibly be the starter this week or whatever, with other guys dealing with injuries there. And it's just going to, if the Baltimore wants to win this game, and they're favored by 4 or 4.5, I believe, they're going to need to do it by throwing the ball here. And so people wanted to play Jonnu Smith last week for Tennessee in the same particular scenario, and it didn't pay off. So I guess maybe that's keeping people off Mark Andrews. But I love getting to Mark Andrews when he's going overlooked. And this is probably the first time all season that we've had this situation, because he's been kind of priced up, and people just haven't really wanted to play him for what the upside could be at a $6,000 price tag, or maybe he was $7,000, I think, on some weeks, but he's just going overlooked. So those are my DFS Week 8 NFL top low owned plays there, the 10 top low owned plays for the week. I didn't give you any guys that I thought were going to be questionable or anything like that. But if I had an honorable mention, it would go to Dalvin Cook in that Green Bay, Minnesota game that should be, a little bit dicey. Had some success against them in week 1. If Minnesota wants to win that game, they're going to have to control the clock, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field. He's had a ton of opportunities the past 3 games, I think 22, 29, 27 opportunities. So I didn't want to, give you that guy if he's not going to play. And I don't really have interest in Alexander Madison this week, as he's still kind of priced up if Cook is out. But if he's ruled in on Sunday, and he did say on his social media that he was going to play, that could be your 11th guy here in the top low on plays, and a guy that I would definitely want some exposure to. So that's going to be signed, sealed, delivered there on the top low on plays. Appreciate you guys listening, and appreciate all the support that I've been getting this year. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Alexander _W. Ryan Williams here, 1/3 of the DGen Nation podcast. Check us out there on your podcast softwares, or go to the YouTube channel, The Fantasy Authority, and subscribe so you guys can get all that content. Until next week, guys, for week 9, hope to see you guys on the week 8 leaderboards. Hope to see you guys sending screenshots, getting that money, and good luck tomorrow. Peace.